Hi, it's Dr. Adam Brown here with my good friend,
Dr. Lara Zibners.
Dr. Lara Zibners. And this is Unstable Vitals, where healthcare is unstable, and so are we. So we're going to do the special episode right now on a conference that we just both went to called Health Europe, HLTH, in case you don't like vowels. They clearly
Maybe
don't
they couldn't afford them. It's a marketing thing. Like
Perhaps.
Every letter counts.
Yeah, it's like HLTH dot.
Health.
You know, it's like
Health. I like succinct.
Well, I like it too.
Right? There's no need to waste a vowel. Like people always say to me, "Oh, you're Lara with no U," and I'm like, first off, Lara is a totally legit name, and secondly, who are you to judge how many letters my parents could afford?
Exactly. I mean, this is not like Wheel of Fortune where you'd like to buy a vowel.
No, I got the vowels I got.
You bought one vowel, A,
and I repeated it. That's right.
BOGO vowel.
It was a buy one get one half off.
That's what BOGO means.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah. You didn't know that? You never watched
Lived
Payless?
under a rock, spent, a lot of time in school, came out once in a while, graduated, went back under my rock. Okay, back to health. I had a great time.
Okay, so
Did you have
health
a good
was
time?
awesome. I did. So let's tell folks about it. So health was in Amsterdam.
It
It's our second year. Just high level, bottom line up front, bluff. Will you go back?
Absolutely.
Yeah, same.
Oh, it's so fun.
So damn
So,
yeah.
Last year was a question mark because it is, there are so many conferences to go to.
Hold on. I'm going to just interrupt. Why was it a question mark? That's where you and I met for the very first time outside of class.
Since I'm not a fortune teller, I did not know that was going to happen.
Okay, got it.
And I'd heard, hey, this is a great conference, and it does not come cheap. Even with the startup discount, it is one of the more expensive ones.
That's right.
But you can justify it by saying, actually, you can skip 5 others by attending this because of how many
100%.
people are there. So I went and I came back, and my co-founder Tang was like, before I went, he's like, that's a really expensive conference. I'm like, Tang, be quiet. I'm going to go and I'm going to scope it out.
Mm-hmm.
It was so great. I immediately said, this is one of the best conferences I've ever been to, and we are going back. And so we went back this year. We're going in autumn
26?
to Vegas.
Oh, you're going to Health Vegas.
I'm
Now,
going
it's
to
a
Health Vegas.
BFD. That's a big freaking deal.
I've been told it's slightly like a different vibe because, you've got the Vegas thing going on. I'm not going to dress like a showgirl no matter who asks and how much they
There's
offer
things
me.
I could say. But I won't. So we'll continue the conversation.
So how did you find the conference?
So I found it on a map, and it was like the REI Center, and I found it that way. You asked me how I found it, but I really liked it. I really enjoyed the conference a whole lot. So my experience, I just like you, I went last year. It was expensive, and so when I say expensive, I think it was a couple $1,000s or something last year. And I'm like, I'm going to go to this conference and see what it's like. And that's when I got to meet you.
That's right.
And I think what was interesting to me is now I have this perspective of last year and this year, and it felt like they very much upped their game, and there was more people that were there, and I'm so glad I was there from the beginning to kind of see it. And now this year, but I think what's important for doctors who may be listening to this, or for people who have gone to conferences before, this felt very different for me. I went to almost every single American College of Emergency Physician conference from 2004 to I think pre-COVID.
I was probably there. I went to a lot of ACEP meetings.
Yeah, I was standing in that booth trying to get folks to come and work for our company, and went to the parties and things like that, and went to the sessions. And, I'm not going to disparage that conference. I would just say that this was a very different thing.
Well, this is, those conferences just are really focused on doctors and more scientific stuff and best practice. This one is about innovation. And so not everybody comes from a healthcare background. People are there for different reasons. There's service providers, there's investors, there's, people. Startups. Mm-hmm. I was there as a startup.
I was there as a startup too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a different energy, and they bring their game, right?
Exactly. So just kind of setting it up, they took over a massive conference center outside of Amsterdam, and they really tried to bring in Amsterdam culture into the venue. So yes, they have the really cool mini waffle cookie things that are just delicious and awesomeness.
Again, no sugar, no flour.
I know. They brought in things like ice cream and foods from different places, but they even had a wellness booth where you could get massages, a hair cutting booth. They had
ginger shots. Last year was the hair cutting. This year,
that's right.
I didn't get to the massage. I was too busy hustling, but I got my ginger shots in. the coffee machine. I mean, and everything was branded.
Yeah.
And Petunia.
Petunia. Oh my gosh, the mascot. That was the unicorn walking around. I got lots of pictures of Petunia. I saw opportunistic
I got a
fun.
hug
Yeah,
from Petunia.
Well, I
We
didn't
did a
know. Like, I
dance.
didn't do a hug, but I did do with my buddy Kelsey, who was not able to go because she has a
Right.
newborn. But we did do a selfie with Petunia and a FaceTime back home with her, so got to bring her in.
Isn't
So
technology amazing?
it's pretty amazing. Yeah. So, I mean, this conference, what I though felt was so different is, yes, there was definitely the scientific component in that I was constantly learning so much more than I was if I was sitting in some didactic lecture being talked to and looking at a PowerPoint.
I think we need to tell everyone that health did not pay us to do any of this, and we both bought our own tickets.
Also true.
Well, actually, mine got refunded because I was a startup finalist, but my husband used my ticket. So we are not advertising for health.
We are
Health is
not.
giving us nothing. Health, if you'd like to, pay
Sponsor
us
us
next year,
we
I
would
mean,
be
that'd be
more
great.
than
But
happy. And
okay,
we'll do this,
health
but-
even doesn't even have any idea that we're doing this episode.
No, they don't.
Okay.
So we kind of went in there. I, as a founder of ABIG, thought, okay, this is a perfect opportunity for me to start connecting with innovators and startups because our company works with innovators and startups on understanding the US healthcare market and how to go from ideation to commercialization. And so with our team, working on everything from let's strategize on how to navigate the regulatory market in the US to understanding market access to the commercialization around comms strategy and thought leadership strategy. I mean, that's how you and I work together. That is kind of the reason why we went to health and to start to partner with or work with other innovators and other founders. And I think when I said, I learned so much from this, yes, I learned so much from a business owner perspective, and I learned a lot about how to conference, and I learned a lot about all the things that you could do at health. But I learned so much of what was being innovative on, where people's head were going, what trends that there were at health, the different products that were being created in all the different countries in Europe by various different founders. I mean, that to me was inspiring. I think coming from the United States, we have this somewhat exceptionalism kind of drained into our system through an IV poll, an IV, where it says, where we say, okay, everything in the US is the best on the planet and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not trying to sound anti-patriotic. What I am trying to say is that other places are doing some pretty fucking awesome things too. And
Right.
I think that to me was one piece of the education. The other was learning about what they were doing and how they come up with their ideas and the problems that they were trying to solve.
Well, and I think I'm an American, right?
Yeah.
So America produces great things, but the whole world has people who are smart, and some of them are immigrants, and some of them are not, and some of them are natives, and we're all doing crazy stuff. And what I love about this environment is you met no less than people from 10 different countries on any given day, right? Because it was a European-based one. Sadly, our Israeli friends couldn't make it. So there was a number of meetings I had that were canceled, scheduled for Zooms during the time. But I had so many meetings with people from different areas within this ecosystem of innovation.
Exactly. I mean, for so we were lucky in that we got to position our booths directly beside each other.
We did.
Which was way fun. And we got to talk about each other's services and products as well. So when one of us was there, it's like, oh, well, let me let you meet my friend Lara. She has started a women's health company. And you say, let me introduce you to my friend Adam. And
He works for me.
He works for me. And so he's my gay husband.
Oh,
and
I mean,
and it's
right?
like,
And we're
you
unstable.
actually did say that several
I
times.
did say it, but you are.
But it's true.
But it's
You know,
true.
and I'm cool with
I'm
that.
going to stop at 3 husbands. I think a real husband, a work husband, and a gay work husband.
There's so many jokes I could say about that. Like, why stop at 3? Like all that.
Because
But that's also true.
at the end of the day, I only have so much time on my hands.
True. And
Okay, can we go back to before the conference started?
yeah.
What was great about it for me was I got to meet a bit more of the ABIG team. I had not met them. These were faces and names, but I had never really put those together. So, and I brought Kaylee and Sabrina, two of my engineers,
A delight.
who are fabulous
And brilliant.
And I wanted them to have an opportunity to see a different aspect of what we're doing, right? They're always stuck at the office working their little tails off, and I wanted them to get out and see some of the softer skills we have to develop. So we all went out to dinner together.
Oh my gosh, that night, so it was so amazing. So my team, Jordan, he's our head of business development and sales at ABIG, is the first time I actually met him in person. There's a reason why. He's an Aussie. He's from outside of Sydney on the Gold
Uh-huh.
Coast, and he pronounced some name of a town that he's from called like Wally Bali or something like that. It's a funny name. I don't know.
Shrimp on the Barbie kind
Yeah,
of thing. Yeah,
exactly.
right. Okay.
And so anyway, I got to meet him and his
Wally,
girlfriend.
Koala Town.
Yeah, Koala Town, whatever.
Did you know
Like,
koalas have chlamydia? That's why their eyes are pink.
really?
Yeah, they are carriers of chlamydia. They are animal reservoirs for it, so that's why they get chlamydia trachomatis. That's the
I
pink
did
eyed
not know you were a
koala.
koalalologist. I mean, that's
I am not a koalalologist, but I am an authority in certain.
chlamydia. You're very
No, I'm
good
not an
on.
authority in
Oh,
chlamydia. I'm an authority in zoonotic reservoirs because as a pediatrician, you have to be like, oh, you have a snake,
stop it. I don't like snakes.
you have a guinea pig, and they are
Okay,
harbors
sure.
for salmonella.
Okay.
Like camels carry gonorrhea, I think.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to know
I mean,
what bacteria live in certain animals because kids
I
stick
never
their
got a call
fingers.
from a camel, that said like,
You
"Hey,
don't?
no."
Well, okay, as a koalalologist, I'm going to tell you that
Okay.
they have chlamydia.
So anyway,
Okay,
that
fine.
was very much a rabbit trail, but that's okay. So back to the dinner. So Jordan was there, and I got to see again my really great graphic designer Adam, who lives here in England, and so he came together, and we're all sitting outside of this beautiful place, and it's in a park. But it was at a Greek restaurant, with like tzatziki sauce, and I'm
Because when
getting
you
that.
go to the Netherlands, you go
to
Greek.
Greek restaurants. But anyway, no, it was on a canal. It was like beautiful.
Yeah,
And so,
it was great.
and then your team was there with Kaylee and Sabrina and Steve was, I mean, it was like just
Yeah.
all sitting around.
Yes.
And while we're sitting there, I hear this like thump sound. I'm like, what is that? I mean, we're under the trees. And then I look, and Jordan, no lie, has bird shit all over his leg.
And without thinking, you
I'm
laughed.
laughing at him.
You laughed.
I'm laughing.
You laughed.
I laughed hard.
Yeah.
And then I felt kind of somewhat like, oh,
No, you
poor
didn't
you.
feel bad. You're
I
saying that
didn't.
now. That's like,
Okay,
that's the
that's
retrospective
revisionist.
scope.
That's
Yeah,
the
that's right.
retrospective scope. So I laughed at him. I gave him a little bit of my club soda and like on a napkin, and oh, it'll be okay, even though you have like a green tzatziki
And
sauce
then-
looking thing. And then I heard this on top of my head, and then another on my shoulder. It's like, holy shit. Yes, shit. Like all over my head, on my shoulder. It was like a post Thanksgiving.
It was a bird that had dysentery,
I guess. but
like
it didn't-
cholera, avian cholera.
Exactly. So that was like number one.
Yeah.
And so, I'm like, okay, crap.
And then I
no
think
pun
I
intended.
told the story before about my bird shit because I was like, oh, that's good luck. And I told the story about I was walking down the street in New York City once, 34th Street and like Fifth Avenue, and I hear like a plop plop on my head. And I reach up and it's clearly bird shit. So I go into H&M and I'm like, can I use your bathroom? And
Only customers.
no, and not even. I'm like, if I buy something, no. I'm like, a bird shit on my head. They're like, I'm sorry to hear that. So I
That's
walk
a shitty
home.
situation,
It's a shitty
Lara.
situation. So I'm walking home to get a shower, but I needed printer paper, and I thought, well, no one will notice. It's winter, so I put my hat on, and I walk into the Staples, and I'm standing there in line with my printer paper, and somebody says, "Does it smell like bird in here?"
Ooh. Now, here's
So
the
I've
thing.
learned like life lesson: if a bird shits on your head, go straight home.
Well, okay. So,
Just saying. But then I tell the
nice
story. We're all
commercial
like,
break.
chuckle, chuckle, chuckle.
And now back to me. So here we are sitting there, and I wipe this off, and then I hear, and it's like, mother, what has happened again? Like, what is
You were
this
like a
target?
statue in Washington Park.
Yes, I mean, it's like a friend of mine said, sometimes you're a statue, sometimes you're a bird. Well, this time I was clearly,
You were a statue loved by a bird.
but it did not end there.
No, it did not.
And I
Because we do
thought
not
that
learn.
for
Learning
sure-
curve flat.
For sure, this would not happen again.
No.
So we wiped it off. Okay, food is now coming. More tzatziki sauce. And the only reason I keep saying tzatziki sauce is because it kind of looked like that, But like, it gets brought to the table, and we're just eating, and it's like I should have known by that point. Like, we need to make a change. And it was the first time I was meeting some of the team, and I didn't want to make a big deal about it. And I certainly was making more of a joke about it. And then it was the full on back of the neck,
Yeah.
down the
Yeah.
back.
You had a cream sweater on too.
And it was a cream white sweater. Yeah.
That's right.
It
That's
just was
unfortunate.
very
Yeah.
unfortunate. And then it was like rapid succession, a fourth time. 4 times that bird
It took
shat
you
on
4
me.
times before you did
And
one.
that time I stood up. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And the table next to me was like, oh my God, you're so lucky. I'm like, sure, fill it, etc. And so finally I asked the waiter, can we bring over an umbrella, like to block
Well,
the
to think
sun?
that they probably should have this. You can't be the first
I couldn't
person.
have been. Like,
They must
there's
know
no
that
way.
there's like some really unwell bird in that tree,
Oh my God, it had to be cholera bird,
right?
like, or
And
something.
you didn't get psittacosis, did you?
No, I
Yet
don't think
another
so.
animal
Yeah,
reservoir
but
from
no.
zoologists
So we
here.
brought the umbrella over to sit over our food because God forbid we had like little extra sauce.
That might not have stopped
would
me. I
not-
was really
not-
hungry. Yeah.
Oh, that's also true, and it was good. It was like really good food.
Yeah.
But we brought the umbrella over, and throughout the entire dinner, thump, thump, thump on the umbrella. Like
Yeah.
that bird was like trying to throw down a bunker bomb of like turds on top of me.
So
it was
that
like
was how
absolutely.
the Code Browns started their week in Amsterdam.
This is absolutely right. So that was how. So
That
and
was
it
great.
was a really great dinner, and I think it was full of fortune.
It was full of fortune because then the next day we got up and you dragged us all to spin class.
We did spin class. We did Beyonce remixes.
We did.
And I, as many of you know, like I teach spin class. I'm an instructor. Love to do spin. It's like what a great way to bring the whole team together. We all went, and we kicked ass, took names, even spun while we were doing our arm exercises.
I did not spin while I was doing arm.
You did a couple.
Yeah, but I had gone for an aggressively large weight, and I balance is an issue. I'm 53.
It's
right?
Fine. It's fine.
Okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
I did my best.
So, and then we did our happy hour later that evening, and that was so fun. We had like
really
a
fun.
happy hour that we did an ABIG, Unstable Vitals,
Calla
and
Lily.
a Calla Lily.
And we had a good laugh, and we had a great turnout. And then we were supposed to go to the opening event, and we were exhausted.
And then started the 2 days of really intense meetings and time at the booth. So, a couple questions.
Yes.
Question 1. What are the top kind of 3 or 4 things that you learned from this conference? And I'll give you mine.
Well, let's start with, as much as I like to talk, and as much as you and I talk.
Do we?
We do.
Okay.
I love to hear myself talk. Talking is exhausting.
Oh,
when we were at our
social battery
cocktail, 2 hours of just being on stage. And then the next day we started early, and we were, every single encounter, when you're a startup founder, every single encounter might lead to something. Might be a check. It might be somebody who likes our podcast. It might be somebody who introduces me to somebody who, wants to support us in some way.
Or someone I want to support, or someone that I'm really interested in.
And it's not to say that I go around my regular life not guessing that I might meet somebody amazing that day. But when you're there as a startup finalist, I was invited to be one of the 10 startups on the finalist stage. So super exciting. That's how I got my booth, right? We're a little startup. I got my ticket. Kaylee and Sabrina got their tickets. You're on show. And you know that you're not just representing you're representing your whole company. So every time you're meeting anybody and you're running around and you're trying to find the people you want to run into and corner them as they come off the stage and introduce yourself and give your elevator pitch, it is exhausting. By the time Tuesday night came, we went back to the hotel and I could barely speak. And for me, to render Lara Zibners speechless, okay, I wasn't speechless. I was like gurgling out a few words in between
I was going
dinner.
to say, you were definitely not speechless.
No, but definitely more
I
subdued.
don't think that's possible.
So that was one. Networking is hard work.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, what else?
Number 2, high heels hurt because during COVID we all stopped wearing shoes, and I'm trying to bring my A game, right? I'm trying to look like a professional person. No, well, right now I'm wearing my Converse.
Okay, those are kind of your sig shoes, right? Your signature shoes.
Yeah, but these are a little dirty. I probably need a new pair.
Okay.
And I was bringing
judgment.
like nice. Yes, you are. You're judging me right here, but
I'm
okay,
paid
fine.
to make judgments, but sure.
I brought good shoes because that event is huge, and you are walking around all the time. So I had 2 pairs of shoes with me every single day, and I was swapping like every time my feet would get sore. Did you not notice
I
that?
did notice that. I was not going to say anything.
I was like sandals, trainers, heels. I had a big handbag with me and I was just swapping the shoes out.
I just wear my boots. These boots are amazing. These are
nice.
Yeah, you like them? Because I can dress them up, dress them down.
Because you're a man and you don't have the same foot pressure that women have. And that's a societal wrong, but it is
not
what
my
it
monkeys,
is,
not my
right?
circus. Okay.
Okay, number 3 is that I still get nervous. And that surprised me.
That's good. I get nervous too. Boom.
Right?
Yeah.
And not just before I don't know what makes you nervous.
Oh, so like interview on BBC, not nervous. Interview on like CNN, NBC, nope, not nervous. They can tell me, Adam, there's 99 million people that just viewed that. I mean, I don't know if there are, but like that's the potential population. Not nervous. Me announcing that Steve was joining ABIG in front of
Isn't that funny?
I was nervous about
because
that.
it mattered more to you. And I think you just hit on exactly what happened to me. So I was on the startup stage.
And you did a fucking fantabulous job.
Thank you.
Yes.
I did my best, but
no, you did a great job.
Thank you.
They were confused, but you did an amazing job.
I didn't win, but I will say there were 9 other startups that were all kind of like out of the thousands that applied to pitch. And so I was just happy to be up there with them. I went first, which is hard, but I also was glad I was getting it out of the way. My husband had flown in the night before to support me, but I'm there representing not just myself, right? Like you, I can sit here and talk about all kinds of personal stuff and it doesn't bother me. I'm representing my co-founder Tang jokingly said to me, "Don't bother coming home if you don't win the whole thing."
Boo.
Boo. And he was joking, but I took it very seriously. I took
yeah.
it seriously because I have so much pressure on my shoulders all the time about making this company succeed and being the one to do my part because everybody is working their butts off.
Yeah.
And I want to do my part. And had I been able to bring home that check, it just would have been validation, but just being up there was validation. I got up there and I felt really good and I wasn't that nervous. But what happened to me is the minute I walked off the stage, the same thing that used to happen after a bad resuscitation or a really intense resuscitation where I'm totally calm in the room. And then the minute I walk out, I turn beet red and I start sweating profusely. And that's what happened. Remember, you came over and Oasis and everyone was coming and giving me hugs and you did great. And I just remember having that feeling of my heart rate is 800,000 beats per minute.
I do that to people, actually. I think
it was all you. No, it wasn't. But okay, fine. So I was like, wow, it's a good little self-check that you don't get so comfortable in everything you're doing that you don't once in a while get nervous. And I think that same thing as good doctors know when they don't know something. And I think for what you and I are now doing, sometimes having a moment where it's different because it's personal and you are nervous, that's okay. I don't think I ever want to get to a point where I can walk around the world, naked and not ever be, and I mean naked, emotionally vulnerable, and perhaps naked, just naked, and not gonna dress like a showgirl in Vegas. Just reiterating that. Okay, final point.
Will not make any comment.
Final point. The people are why we do this.
Yeah.
Right? Like the amount of fun we had, the people I saw, people I hadn't seen since last year, and we'd connected last year and we stayed in touch on LinkedIn. But they're not really people I would consider friends. We would see each other and be like, "Oh my God," right? And these big reunions and introducing you. And I remember from last year, and I'm like, "Oh, is that a good thing?" And somebody
infamous versus famous.
Right. Somebody came by our booth and said, "Oh, I remember your co-founder from last year. She really made an impression on me." And I'm like, did she say it like with a smile? But then I did see Petra and we had a big, reunion and it was great. And so I think, being able to be there with my team, meeting your team, like it's a bonding because startup life is hard.
Yeah.
And so having these moments where we can be together as like humans and at the end of the day, just be exhausted and have a good laugh outside of work. And all the people we're meeting as we go on this journey, that for me was huge. Okay.
I think so.
How about you?
So my things is that
you did not wear high heels. So
I did
you
not.
Can't take
I
that
wore my
one.
boots. I showed you that. But I think the first thing was I got to meet with all of these different founders and startup founders, and so my answers are gonna be a little bit more of like what I learned about what people should and need to do.
Oh, so I just talked about myself.
No. I'll talk about that too. But like, so as I talk to a lot of founders, is that there can be a lot of missteps that can create barriers for you, depending on where you want to commercialize, where you want to take your products or service. And so, and the U.S. healthcare market is extremely, extremely complex. Different payers, different state regulations, federal regulations, different buyers. Like it's very different from Europe. And that doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It's just to simply say it's different. And so getting expertise really early on. There's so many conversations that when someone would tell me what they were doing, and I'd be like, oh, wait a minute.
Uh-huh.
Okay, this product should go this direction or this
Right.
pathway because this is the regulation.
Right.
Or your branding in the US is going to be this or that versus where it is in the Netherlands or where it is in the UK. So that was one big thing, is that if there is a thought about wanting to come into the United States, seek help early
Yes.
and make sure that for founders that they are saving money on the front end for that type of
Because
expertise.
this is one of the issues with being a startup founder is everything's lean and you're constantly looking
Right.
at how much money you have and is it worth it to spend that kind of money when you don't have revenue or, you're still in the red.
Correct. And
But
the
your
answer
point
is
is
yes.
yes.
And this sounds self-promoting
Well, it
or
is,
kind of,
but
let's
that's
take
okay.
ABIG out of it. And I tell this to my students who are not working with me and that are going into other companies. I'm like, make sure you really assess your market, that you understand who your buyers are, who the people are going to buy your product, what the user experience is going to like get that right.
Get help early is a good life motto. Right?
Totally.
Like are you supposed to wait till the last day of senior year of
No,
high school to get help for your English project or day one
no,
when you realize you're in over your head?
correct.
Right?
The second thing,
Okay.
your booth is your pitch. I saw so many boo booths while I was at boo
Boo
booths.
booths.
And that if you can put a cohesive look, a brand, a way to explain who you are and what you do with collaterals or with papers and pamphlets, and you put people at your booth that know what they're talking about, that goes a huge way. There were so many people that walked up to our booth that would talk to us, be like, oh, tell me about Calla Lily or tell me about ABIG. Because we stood out. We had
Right.
good slides behind us. We had good collaterals. Our color
No, and
contrast
I
was
will
good.
plug ABIG and
Go ahead. Thank
say
you.
you really helped me out with that
Well, of
things
course.
because
And it was fun.
I'm kind of like a black and white person.
It's okay.
Colors
Like,
frighten me, but
yeah,
you
no, but
helped me out.
it's totally okay. The other thing that I learned was that health was a really good opportunity to make big announcements or do big things. And, we announced that Steve Farmer's joining our team. And I think that was a really big thing. But I think it was a good opportunity to plan for those announcements. Okay. The fourth thing, planning. Oh my goodness. You're spending
Oh,
thousands upon thousands of dollars if you're a founder and you're going, or even if you're going to an attendee, you need a plan days, months, weeks in advance before you go to a conference like that. Otherwise, you're squandering that opportunity to
well,
make the right
we
connections.
had some missteps, right? So you told me to get some of my swag ordered, and I did. And I pretty sure I hit submit order. And
Right.
I know I put my credit card information into that website. And then like the day before I'm leaving, I'm like, where's all that stuff? And I look on the website and it's in my basket.
Womp,
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 womp. Yeah,
womp.
mine, I got stuck in customs, for a couple days. So it was a day late. Luckily, it did
Yeah.
come, but that was kind of a thing, a learning experience there. And then I think the last thing that I learned, and this was something that you also talked about, was just there is a karma. You said this to me. I will never forget it. And it is true. There is a karma with startups and
That's
with
right.
entrepreneurs and this was so different than many of the conferences that I went to that are the academic kind of medicine conferences. Not because they're cutthroat or anything like that within the healthcare space on academic conferences, but there was a genuine interest of a bidirectional, like this collaboration of how could
Mm-hmm.
we work together? Tell me about your company. I
Mm-hmm.
want to see how I could help you. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
because they also want me to help them. But
Mm-hmm.
it was much more of a reach out by other people than me having to pull people
That's
in.
right.
And I think that to me gave me a lot of hope for healthcare in the future. It gave me a lot of hope for our companies because there was a genuine interest of this kind of collaborative, innovative, almost kind of a pressure cooker in some ways of kind of things to come out better and how to think through better
Mm-hmm.
ideas but it put a lot of smart people together for 2 or 3 days to talk about a lot of things. And we came out, I think, at the other side, like, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. Like that pressure of that and that intensity of those 2 or 3 days at the conference, and that also goal of wanting to work synergistically, I think kind of helps us all on the back end.
And I think that's something unique about health. And I don't know exactly all their special sauce, but one of the things I do know is that the people organizing the conference are very easy to access, and you can find them. And they're trying to help you. So I was on the last night before the beach on Thursday.
There's no beach in Amsterdam, but go ahead.
But it was a beach. Okay, this is John Zweed. I was exhausted, and Erica from health comes over and says, "Are you going to the health fest tonight?" And I'm like, I can't, like, I need to go lie down. And she goes, "Because I can get you on the VIP boat, which is full of investors." And as a startup founder, you're like, yes. So I dragged but she stopped me out and said, "Do you want this tag? Let me put it on your wrist. I want to put you on this boat with investors. I think it will pay off for you."
Yeah.
And it's those little things that
I felt like they did a good job trying to connect us and put us out there with the right people. So there was that matchmaking. It wasn't perfect. I mean, I just want to be clear, like,
because I did not walk away with 2.5 million pounds, which had been my goal.
Oh, okay, yeah, there's that. But I mean, it was not absolutely perfect, but it was, I thought, a really good conference where I hope to go next year. We ended up having so many connections that we now have to go through. So this goes back to the planning. If you are going as a founder and you're going as a booth, you need to have months of preparation. You need to make sure that you have a team member 2, 3, 4. They're helping you with the event planning, the going through the networks and the connections, sorting through that list. And then on the back end, you need to also ensure that you're following up with those contacts, because it will be overwhelming and then you've lost it.
I've got a whole page. I now keep a networking Excel spreadsheet with different tabs, and I've now got my health one, and I've only got about half the names on it, and I'm at like 40 people.
Yeah. So it's a big deal.
It was fun.
It was fun. It was a little, at times we were a little unstable, but it was energizing.
We're usually unstable.
That's
sometimes we
true.
kind of went slightly more unstable.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you going next year?
I think so.
That's, I think, the plan. So anyway, follow up with us on Unstable Vitals to hear more about kind of our travels and what we're doing. But this was a really great conference, and one where we learned so much. We learned from each other. We learned from other people. And I would recommend it. 5 out of 5 stars.
Swag is good.
Oh, the swag
and the food is good. Right?
So
my husband gets there, he goes, do I have to pay for anything? And I'm like,
no,
you paid up front.
Swag is great. Swag is great. So until next time, check our episodes on anywhere you get your podcasts. Make comments, drop a comment, send us show ideas, or if you want to be on the podcast, it doesn't mean you're going to necessarily be on it. But but let us know. You can certainly try.
If you're a koala, give me a call.
Our resident koalalologist. But anyway, hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and until next time,
take care.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Unstable Vitals. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow us for more unfiltered conversations on the pulse of healthcare. Connect with us on LinkedIn or visit unstablevitals.com to stay in the loop. And don't forget, real change starts with real talk. See you next time.